Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and I hope you guys are doing great. So in my today's video, I'm going to go through with you the results of V-Mart Limited for the Q1 of FY27. We are going to go through the overall profit, how the same stores growth, and how the overall various brands of theirs are performing. And then just at the end, we'll see how they are well doing with their competitors like V2 Retail and Style Bazaar. So if you all know about V-Mart Retail, right? So they are into value retail where they sell these apparels at a very reasonable and an affordable rates, and they operate mostly into Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier 4 cities of India. And along with this apparels, right, they sell certain non-apparel stuff and some FMCG products also. So if you look at their revenue from operations, right, so that did quite decent because if you look from Q1 FY26 to Q1 FY27, they grew by almost 23% to 1,089 crores from 885 crores. And if you look at their EBITDA margin, right, that also slightly improved from 14.3 to 14.4%, which we could see reflected in the numbers also, as the EBITDA numbers improved from 126 to 161%, which is a growth of almost 27%. And if you look at their PAT margin, right, that also improved at the similar rate as EBITDA margin by 0.5%, which increased from 3.8 to 4.3%. And that obviously reflected in their growth of profit after tax, which grew from 34 crores to 47 crores. So that growth is almost around 41%. So the profit growth was higher than the sales growth, which means they definitely get the benefit of operating leverage. So over here, if you look at the numbers and everything, right, the basic numbers from revenue to profit, so they have done quite decent. And if you break this down, right, and we look at their revenue from operations from their different brands that they have in and sorry, what is the mix, right? So if you look over here at the bottom of the screen, right, so we can clearly see that VMart grew by almost close to around 21%, where the revenue grew from 740 crores to 899 crores. And their other brand, Unlimited, right, that grew by almost 33% from 138 crores to 184 crores. And their last one, which is Lime Road NEV, grew from 188 to 222 crores. And if you look in terms of the revenue mix, right, how much apparel is contributed, non-apparel FMCG, the numbers almost remains the same compared to Q1 of FY26. And slight change in the apparel. The apparel was last year around 80%. This year it was around 81. Non-apparels, it was almost similar, 10 and 9%. And the FMCG remain almost stable, right, 10 and to 10%. So if you look over here, right, in terms of the revenue mix didn't change much except for 1% up and down in apparel and non-apparel. But if you look at the growth from perspective, VMart had a growth of almost 21% and Unlimited almost a growth of almost 33%. So this shows that, right, it's not just the main brand VMart, but there are other retail outlets like Unlimited. They're also growing at a decent pace. So let's look at their store count and how their sales per square feet is improving. If you look at their overall sales count, right, so last year they had at Q1 of FY26 they had a number of stores 510. This year it is around 591%. So the majority of the stores, the store growth which has come in the past 1 year, right, has come, if you look over here, has come in the Tier 2 cities, which is a growth of almost 36%, Tier 1 at around 21%, and Tier 4 at around 10%. And if you look at their number for this Q1 alone, right, they opened a total number of stores was around 15 stores. And if you look at their sales per month square feet, right, for all their different, overall as well as for that, overall it grew by almost 7% from 716 rupees to 767 rupees per month. But if you look at their, they have done this bifurcation between the different, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier 4 cities. The biggest growth has come from the Tier 4 cities, which grew from 666 rupees to 768 rupees. So this clearly shows, right, that even at the smaller cities, right, people are willing to spend slightly more, which has helped them to grow this sales per square feet over there. And the another important thing that we're going to discuss is, right, same store sales per growth, right, which is very, very important for any retail outlet, right. I mean, let's take an example. If you or me have opened a store, right, we have this one store, and obviously we are opening another multiple store, right. So what happens, right, those new stores which are opening, they take some time, to reach the break-even level and start contributing meaningfully to the overall bottom line. So at the same time, what needs to happen is, right, the current stores which are there, the same stores which are already open, right, they need to also increase their sales overall, which will help them get how to say, increase their revenue as well as their overall profit. So if you look over here, this is where the major difference has happened for them. If you look over here, last year they had the same sales same store sales growth of around 1%, but this year it grew by almost 9%. If you look at the breakup between V-Mart and Unlimited, so Unlimited takes the lead because it grew by almost 30%, and V-Mart also contributed decently, which grew by almost 8%. So this clearly shows, right? So the stores which were there last year, right, are contributing much more meaningfully right now. And if you look at the same store volume growth, right, that also has improved quite well. So earlier we are looking at the percentage of overall sales growth in terms of revenue. Now, if you look at the volume growth also, if you look at last year, they had a total volume growth of almost around, for same store was around 1%, but this time overall it has increased by 6%. And if you look at the breakdown between VMart and Unlimited, right, for VMart, it increased from 1 to 6%, and from Unlimited, it almost more, increased from 5 to almost 13%. So this clearly shows, right, it's not just the sales have increased in terms of revenue, but the volumes have also increased. So this clearly shows more and more people are buying. So if so these were the main metrics that I wanted, to go through, right? And if you look in terms of the overall growth, right? So they have done quite decently by growing by almost 23%, and the number of stores that they have added currently for this quarter is 15. If I take the same number over the next few quarters, so it would be around another 45 stores, which will be total for close to around 60 stores, which will be around 12 to 15% of overall, number of stores increasing compared to the last year, which was around 500 or something. So over here, if I take the same, the number of stores increasing around 12 to 15%, and let's take some value growth. So it looks like the company is somewhere would grow around between around 20 to 25%. And if you look at their sales for the quarter one, it's almost doing the close to the same. But now, the main thing is, if you look at the number alone for VMart, it looks decent. But we need to remember one thing in the stock market, right? In any sector, or in the results are generally compared with their potential competitors, and and the rivals, right? So over here, for VMart, if you can say, the competitors would be V2 Retail, Style Bazaar, and everything. So they will be compared to V2 Retail and how Style Bazaar are doing, and then the ranking will be done, and that's how it, the market will rate accordingly, right? So over here, if you have seen what V2 Retail has been doing, it's been quite fantastic, and compared to them, so if you look at that number, this is quite low, and Style Bazaar is almost similar to that. And the main difference is, right, and I personally feel that VMart would be much more better re-rated than Style Bazaar, because Style Bazaar is small and still growing at the pace of close to what VMart is growing. But V2 Retail is at a small, has a smaller base, but growing at a much faster rate. And we can see in the past few years, right, the market is also related accordingly, right? So we have to compare according till the time. I mean, I'm not saying that VMart might not will not make money for the shareholders. It will make, but I don't think it will grow at the same pace at what the competitors are doing. So overall, I would say they are growing at a decent pace. They are getting the operating leverage. But I think in terms of the number of stores which are growing, or the overall sales growth has come down from people, and it is stable at around between around 20 to 25%. So there is nothing much magic or something big can be expected, unless and until the company decides to expand at a much aggressive rate, and grow their stores at a very high rate. Because currently, even though V2 Retail is between around 250 to 300 stores, right? They have a target that in the coming years, 3 4 years down the line, they want to have around 2,000 stores. And right now, for Style Bazaar, the stores are around close to around 590, and I haven't heard anything from them that they want to increase it to 1.5 or 2,000, right? So that's what we have to see. But in short, right, if I look at the results are decent, and nothing much going wrong with the company. But at the same time, they're not doing something extraordinary also. So that is the whole picture of it. And obviously, I'll keep the eye on the company and update the results in the coming quarters also. And if you guys would like me to make a video and on the doing a video comparison between VMart, V2 Retail, Style Bazaar, or any other company in the same sector, right? please do mention in the comment. If I get comments, and if I see that people wants to see such video, I'm definitely going to make it. And if you guys like this as analysis, please do hit like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you and God